it does seem interesting that you have this effort to repopulate the place by taking orphans all around. Like I said, you think about the population of the world is, based on what they tell us, was very low in the 1800s. I think it was only like 1 billion or something like that, if that's true. It's still like way smaller than now. So the amounts of orphans they're talking about all around the world, like obviously you amplify that to the number we're at now, and you can't even imagine how many people we're talking about. So the orphans are going all around, and then you have, right at the same time, I said it's interesting. I looked this up. Was in 1900 in America there was 1,000 insane asylums, or no, there was 1,000 orphanages. There's 0 today. There's 0 orphan. There's 1,000 of them, and obviously you think our population's way bigger now, so there should be maybe some. And then there was 150,000 people locked up in the insane asylums in 1900. When if you think about 250,000 orphans in America, you have 150,000 people in insane asylums. Yeah, to me, it's like something obviously massive happened, and it could have been when Satan was let loose. And then you have the remnants of those people, was like the people who wouldn't shut up about it got locked up, their kids got taken away. And then these kids got shipped around, all around, obviously America, and probably all around the world to repopulate these places. It feels like, just based on the pictures, yeah, you see aristocrats. Everybody's dressed so well. Everybody looks so good walking around. So these were like the people who said, well, we're not working in the factories. Let's go put those kids in there. And again, these kids are reprogrammed. Then you get right into like the Rockefeller school system that we've got. And anybody who talked about that stuff, obviously they locked away or offed.
You remember that article I sent you concerning the saints and the insane asylums?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this is the Greensboro Patriot article, and it's from 1868, I believe. And there's a very interesting passage in this article, and this is what it says. It's highlighted in yellow right there. So I'm going to send it to you, so maybe you could post it up here. Mm-hmm. But it says, lunatics had their golden age before laws were made, when they wandered forth at large and were revered as saints or partaking of something holy or divine. But with laws and civilizations, their iron age began. What does that even mean?
Wait, read that again?
Read that again, yeah.
Right, so this article or newspaper is from the 1800s, the 1860s. Lunatics had their golden age before laws were made, when they wandered forth at large and were revered as saints or partaking of something holy or divine. But with laws and civilization, their iron age began. So the lunatics they're referring to in this article is the insane asylum people. I don't know why they specifically said this in the article, but yeah, it's very weird. It's at the top of the title. It says the treatment of lunatics, and it just like goes into their treatment, I guess. And then it says this weird passage right here.
Isn't it funny? Even I saw somebody was breaking down English words, and they were just talking about the fact that, like, lunatic, obviously it's some kind of related to the moon. It's kind of it's a strange word to call crazy people, but that's always like that expression where you're like, it must be a full moon, people are acting crazy. Like, where does that even come? Like, where does that come from? Isn't it interesting? I've heard people compare that, like, the sun and the moon are supposed to represent. The sun was, God put these signs in it. The sun is to represent God's son. It's not literally God's son. It represents it, and the church is represented by the moon.
Yeah.
So it's like maybe that's where lunatic came from.
Maybe. That what you said there's interesting, because wasn't Sigmund Freud around the same era? And he was
late 18th.
Yeah, I believe he was also again accusing people of going insane due to religious fervor. That was like the number one reason for putting people in insane asylums, religious insanery. Yeah, and if you think about the timing, if these were people in these insane asylums, for example, in 1860, are still then being described as people who lived during a golden age, they claim, where everything was perfect. Mm-hmm. Are these people, are they being locked up in insane asylums for long periods of time because they don't die easily because they lived through the millennial reign? Are they living a really, really, really long time and are perhaps really hard to kill? So what do? You just lock them away until they finally just end, whatever that is, because Christ isn't there anymore. It's the little season. It must wear off eventually, right? So it makes sense. Maybe that's what they did. They just got rid of them, and the children obviously became the orphans, perhaps in this scenario, and it all kind of lines up to the narrative. Only religious nuts belong in the insane asylum. These crazy people. You know?
Well, you could still even have some remnant of the people, and they're still telling their kids about it, and they're still growing up, and they're still saying, "No, this is not right." Like what they're trying to tell people is not true. And so so like obviously you could have a generation past that, but then the next generation, it's like the kids of the parents who told them about all the things before, they're not going to say anything because they see what happens to people who do. You know, so people out of fear, obviously, to get locked up and go to shock therapy and all that stuff. Like, is it worth it to fight the narrative?
Probably not. I mean, it only takes about 4 generations to completely erase history anyway. Rewrite the school books, you know. Probably less. Yeah, probably maybe 2 or 3, to be honest.
Well, I saw a video. It was funny right before like kind of all the election stuff, funny business over like in the 2020s. Everyone was sharing this video of, I think this guy, his name's Yuri something, and he was in the KGB, and he was like talking about like the threat of communism. And I think he was actually saying it only takes 15 years to program a generation.
20, yeah, Yuri Bezmenov.
Because he's basically just saying long enough to put him through school. So you go like one generation, because he had these different phases of how to basically completely co-opt the thing. And obviously it's like the guy was, I don't think he necessarily was a prophet, but obviously he's saying these things in the 80s in America, and you're like looking around, you're like, because he was kind of already saying back then it was too late. And he was clearly right. Crazy.